Hello again and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard Tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Brandon Escobar for sending in this awesome picture of his Lambton Lions. I actually really like the way the sort of red and yellow of this colour scheme comes together. From a distance it can look a little bit, bright and popping, but when you actually get nice and up close and you can see this picture, I really like some of the fine detail and sort of care and attention that's been put into these models, especially around sort of the face mask and the gas mask and the guns. I really like the effect that's come out on those gun barrels, Brandon. If you could let us know how you've done that, that's really cool on the on the Hotshot Lascars. I'm thinking maybe this has been done with contrast paint, but I don't know for sure. So anyway, thank you for sending this picture in, Brandon. Looks absolutely fantastic, really bright, popping sounds. Absolutely love it. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, please post on my Facebook page. There will be a link down in the description below. Now, I did say Imperial Guard Tactics video, guys, and I know some of you will be going, oh no, not this again. But this is actually kind of a Gene Stealer Cult Tactics video. Yeah, I know, it's heresy, but the reason I'm talking about this is because, you know, I mentioned in my previous video that I think the way to run Gene Stealer Cult is to run them like a pseudo guard army. And so this video is important for all guard commanders out there. Because at the moment we're all kind of scrabbling around trying to find ways to make the guard work in competitive ninth. And if Gene Stealer Cult can offer some solutions and we don't even need to change the models that we're using, because we're essentially just using them as a extended regimental doctrine book, then I think we should all, keep our minds open and embrace the Formed Emperor. Anyway, heresy aside, let's get serious for a moment, guys. So, there appears to be some weight to this idea that I have of running your Gene Stealer Cult like a guard army, running them ninth, completely forgetting the old ways and embracing the new. Because I've actually been talking to a couple of competitive players who've surprisingly mentioned about Gene Stealer Cult, and they've been trying some things out with them, and they've both said to me that, you know what, we've been trying the shooting stuff. Before you even came and talked to us about it, the things that we've been trying in our little close-knit playtesting groups and whatnot, we've been looking at shooting Gene Stealer Cult, and one of the big things that people have been looking at is how to really get the most out of that Gene Stealer Cult infantry. And so what I want to talk about today, guys, is actually let's just spend just 5-10 minutes just drilling down on the Gene Stealer Cult infantry choices. But we're not going to be looking at acolytes or metamorphs or anything like that. What we're going to be taking a look at today, guys, is Brood Brothers and Neophytes. Okay? Now, I've done many videos on Neophytes and Brood Brothers before. I've done many videos on Neophytes before, but Brood Brothers, they offer kind of an interesting alternative now. But we'll focus on the Neophytes first. And essentially, guys, for you guard players out there, Neophytes are essentially guardsmen, but they cost 1 point more. Okay? Now, some of you will be turned off by that instantly, and I don't blame you. But bear with me. You see, one of the things that we've been exploring this week, the sort of theme has been, what if we just go for durability? What if we just sack off our infantry doing any damage? We leave that to the big boys. We leave that to the tanks and the tank commanders and the other, hard-hitting units out there. And we just have our infantry just focus on being as hard and as stubborn as possible. Well, there are some places where Neophytes actually do this better than regular guardsmen. You see, if you compare them side by side, stat by stat, they're identical. I think the Neophyte actually has one additional leadership. So, there you go. But what you then need to take a look at is, the Gene Stealer Cult Neophytes can be taken in squads of 20. Why is this important? Well, as we've mentioned previously, you don't necessarily want to be spending CP just to get access to 6 extra troop slots. If you're a guard player and you're like, I need 2 battalions because I want to take 120 infantry, well, why not take 6 squads of 20 guys? You can do that in the Gene Stealer Cult with your Neophytes. So that is almost worth paying a point for itself, an extra point per man in itself. Think about it, you're saving 3 CP, Occult are a pretty CP hungry faction, even when you're running them as a shooty faction. So, yeah, you're paying a point extra per guy, but you're saving a lot of CP. That's not too bad. That's potentially a very worthy trade-off. Next thing you want to be looking at is how the sort of different regiment traits stack up. Now, a lot of the guard regiment traits don't really focus on durability. You've got Cadian, which is damage output. You've got Catachan, which is damage output. You've got Vestroian, which is damage output. Talan, about maneuverability. Armageddon Steel Legion, the vehicle side of things is about durability, sure, but the infantry side of things is about damage output, 18-inch range. Valhallans are about mitigating morale, but morale's not a big deal in 9th edition, even with big units. And Mordian, unfortunately, is, well, put it this way, you're better off being a Brood Brother than being a Mordian, because or Neophyte, because Neophytes get the extra pip of leadership that Mordians get, but they don't have to be ranked up to get it. And Overwatch isn't really a big deal anymore. So it's kind of sad when Local outdo Mordians at their own game. But we won't get into that now. That's definitely a video for the future. So that's what the Guard Regiment doctrine do. Now obviously now with Psychic Awakening we do have access to things like Wilderness Survivors. Fair enough. But that does lock you into a specific regiment trait. And don't forget that does limit your mobility. You can't advance and take advantage of Wilderness Survivors. And you might want to advance onto an objective. You might want to get those few extra inches of movement. With Occult, it's surprising actually a fair few of the cult traits focus on durability. In fact, 2 of them, most importantly, you have the Cult of the Bladed Cog, gives every neophyte a 6+ invulnerable save. Straight up. It doesn't matter how hard those Marines are punching you, you're always going to get a 6+ save. You then also have, they can also move and shoot heavy weapons without penalty. Now that doesn't really matter in the sort of hypothesis that we're exploring today, because we're not going to be giving our neophytes heavy weapons, but it's still something to bear in mind. The other one that you have is, I think, it used to be very good. I think now with the fact that Marines are just spouting AP -2 every day of the week, it's less important. But you do have the Rusted Claw. So you've got Bladed Cog, I always want to say that, and the Rusted Claw. Now Rusted Claw, their infantry, if they're hit by a weapon that's AP dash or AP -1, they get +1 to the save. So they're hit by a weapon that's AP dash, they're on a 4+ save. If they get hit by a weapon that's AP -1, they're still on a 5+ save. So in theory you're thinking, well, that's better than Bladed Cog, right? Well, it is if you're facing, armies which aren't pumping out a lot of AP, but the moment you come across Marines, specifically the moment you come across Marines with Intercessors in the Tactical Doctrine, which a lot of them are running, they're all an AP -2. And that means your Rusted Claw guys aren't getting any save, they just die. Whereas your Bladed Cog, they've got a 6 invulnerable save. So definitely something to be considering. The other thing about Genius Occult is they have a few other characters that really help boost their infantry, but specifically around the durability. You can take the Acolyte Icon Ward, and he's basically a banner bearer, but he gives everyone around him a 6+ feel no pain. Now what that means is you've got all your base infantry have got a 6+ invulnerable save, so they're always getting a save of some kind, and a 6+ feel no pain. That actually means that, every time a shot comes through, you've got a 16% chance of stopping it, and then another 16% chance of stopping it. That's really good. A lot of the case with Guardsmen, you don't get any save or any feel no pain. So that is really, really powerful and something to be thinking about. However, I think, and neophytes have always been my sort of go-to in the past, but the problem is that 6 points per dude is pretty expensive. It is. No matter how you cut the mustard, 6 points per dude is pretty expensive for Guardsmen. Okay? And also, at the end of the day, from someone who has tried running the Bladed Cog, Acolyte Icon Ward 6s for days combo, it doesn't always pay off. It can, sometimes, especially if you've got my dice rolls, fishing for those 6s can be tough. It can be really tough, and it just doesn't pay off. You really notice the difference between a 6+ 300 pay and a 5+ 300 pay, put it that way, especially when you're in a game where both are in play and your opponent's got the 5+ and you've got the 6+. Oh boy, you notice that. Oh boy. Now, with that in mind, I want to enter stage left, Brood Brothers. Now, Brood Brothers are just like Imperial Guardsmen in every single respect, except they've got leadership 8, and also except that they can be taken in 20-man squads. So think about that for a second. These are Guardsman equivalent. Now, they don't get cult traits. Okay, so the disadvantage, and they're 1 point cheaper than neophytes. So the advantage is they're 1 point cheaper, and you can take them in just as big squads. The disadvantage is they're not getting that 6+ invulnerable save. Okay? But you're paying a point per guy to give them a 6+ invulnerable. It's debatable whether it's worth it. If you're taking 120 infantry, that's 120 points. You have to ask yourself, am I going to save 120 points worth of dudes? Okay? Am I going to save, with all my 6+ invulnerables, if I'm on a 6+ invulnerable, is it going to be better than having another 20 infantry? Or almost 25 infantry, 24 infantry? It's difficult to say. You'd have to save 24 wounds on your 6+ invulnerable save. You're only going to make 1 in 6 of them. So it's difficult, isn't it, when you think about it? If you've got 120 guys, you've got to save. You've got to roll. Yeah, it's difficult. I don't necessarily think it is worth it. If you do point for point, I think it actually could be argued that you're better off if all of your neophytes die and it all gets shot. 20 of them, you're gonna have to roll 26s for it to be worth it. Or you get 24 extra guys for the same points. You see what I mean? So it's kind of like, ooh, I kind of win out by 4 wounds if I take the Brood Brothers. So think about that for a second. And then you might say, but what about that 6 of finite pain? Well, you've got to pay almost 100 points for that banner. That's another 20 guys. Is that banner going to save me 20 wounds? The answer is probably not. Especially in 9th edition when we're going to be seeing a lot of multi-damage weapons. A lot of them. Because everyone's gearing up to take on 2 wound Marines. And 2 wound Death Guard. 2 wound any other MEQ. So that 6 of field paid may not be worth it. And the 6 of vulnerable save, you may be better off taking 24 extra men and you'll save more wounds. Maybe. So Brood Brothers are cheaper and they're not that much less durable. Most of the time you're going to be on that 5 up save. If you're not on a 5 up save, you're not getting a save. It is what it is. But by saving those points, you can put them into doing more damage. I mean, if you don't take an Acolyte Icon Ward and you take Brood Brothers instead, you're saving about 200 points. Roughly, you're saving about 200 points. You could actually get almost 3 additional Achilles Ridge Runners for that cost. That's what you have to ask yourself, guys. When you're considering Neophytes over Brood Brothers, do I want to have some slightly more durable people, or do I want to take 3 Achilles Ridge Runners? Achilles Ridge Runners, that's 3d3 las cannon shots a turn and 18 heavy stubber shots a turn. You take those all in one unit, you can start using things like overcharged weapons for 1 CP, raking fire for 1 CP, and guess what? You've got loads of extra CP because you're not taking 2 detachments. Brood Brothers start actually looking like a really powerful choice. And the great thing is that Brood Brothers still benefit from the Patriarch. He still makes them fearless. Still having a great time with the Patriarch. He makes all Genius of the Occult infantry nearby him fearless. So, and he makes all Brood Brothers and Genius of the Occult infantry fearless. So, my argument actually would be, guys, and I'm going to start wrapping this video up, that I would take Brood... If I'm going to run my army like an Imperial Guard army, Okay, but I don't want to take conscripts because I think they're just shit. If you just don't like conscripts, if you're against them for fluff reasons, if you're against them because you just think they don't do anything, that they're just useless, and that you've got to put too many support mechanisms into them to make them fearless so that they'll be okay, well, guess what? Come over to the Genius Dealer Cult. You can take blobs of 20 guys, you can take them, and you can make them fearless with one model, the Patriarch. You have one Patriarch sat in the middle, and you have your 120 guys around him, and he just walks up to the middle of the field, and he just holds those primary objectives, and he just, your opponent is going to have a bad time. And it's cheap as well. I mean, if we really want to get into it, if we're going to do some quick napkin maths, we're going to be looking at 120 Brood Brothers is only 600 points. That's it. That's you add in your Patriarch, you add in your one support character, the one single one that you give a damn about, 750 points. The rest of your points you can put into doing damage. We're talking Cult Lehman Russes. We're talking, what the heck are they called? Rock grinders with mining lasers or seismic cannons. We're talking Achilles Ridge Runners. We're talking trucks, with battle bus trucks. You've got loads of choices. I mean, if you think about it, if you're taking one battalion, right? You're taking one battalion. You're going to take the Patriarch to lead the neophytes, but then you're going to want a second HQ choice, right? Take a Jackal Alphas. And that's 75 points, okay? And then you can just take 3 Cult Lehman Russes. Obviously you can't boost the Cult Lehman Russes, so why not take 3 Rock Grinders and use them as heavy weapons, and then take loads of Achilles Ridge Runners. You've got plenty of options that you're going to be able to take advantage of. If you really want to commit to this sort of pure infantry, just killing lifestyle, just sitting on objectives and just dominating the primary game, you could take 2 detachments. Oh, it's so tempting. You could take 720 points of neophytes if you want to go down the neophyte route. 720 points of neophytes. Add in a Patriarch, add in a, banner guy, Icon Ward. You could take 2 of those and turn to the battlefield with 240 fearless infantry with 6 up invulnerable saves and 6 up feel no pain, and it's going to cost you 1,900 points. Or you can do something similar with Brood Brothers. Like I said, you may not even want to bother with the Patriarch. Yeah, it's nice having fearless infantry, but we've kind of, I know I'm flitting all over the place here, guys, but we're just throwing stuff at the wall. It's Genius Dealer Cult Friday. We're just throwing things at the wall. But the point is that when you're deciding how do I want to run my pseudo guard army, you can take neophytes with durability, or you can save those points and take Brood Brothers, and you can get more killing potential. Okay, and the more threats you have on the board, the more your opponent will probably target those threats and leave your infantry to do their job, which is to dominate primary points. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Brood Brothers or neophytes? I know a lot of people instinctively say neophytes, but consider the same argument that I made in my conscript video, which is, if your infantry is not there to do any damage, shouldn't it just be as cheap as possible? Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.